We are living in a world full of sale and shopping spree. We are given a wide array of products to purchase, from a simple set of spoon and fork to owning a restaurant. So almost everywhere, including the digital space, and we can find promotions of product purchase. So now we already have different platforms or applications for shopping. We already have Shopee, Lazada, and a lot more applications that offers online shopping. So these product advertisements are suggestive of making us feel better or look good, and part of us wants to have that product. What makes us want or have those products are connected with who we are, and what we want to have and already possess is related to ourselves. So according to Belk in 1988, he stated that we regard our possessions as parts of ourselves. Kumbaga, we are what we have and what we possess. There is a direct link between self-identity with what we have and possess. So our wanting to have and possess has a connection with another aspect of the self, which is the material self. So now let us try to examine ourselves further in the lens of material self. For our learning objectives, at the end of this lesson, you should be able to first explain the association of self and possessions. Second, identify the role of consumer culture to self and identity, and appraise one's self based on the description of material self. A Harvard psychologist in the late 19th century, William James, wrote in his book The Principles of Psychology in 1890 that understanding the self can be examined through its different components. He described these components as its constituents, the feelings and emotions they arouse, and the actions to which they prompt, be it self-seeking and self-preserving. The constituents of self are composed of the material self, the social self, the spiritual self, and the pure ego. Really is about our bodies, clothes, immediate family, and home. We are deeply affected by these things because we have put much investment of ourself to them. The innermost part of our material self, as you can see, is our body. Intentionally, we are investing in our body. We are directly attached to this commodity that we cannot live without. We strive hard to make sure that this body functions well and good. Any ailment or disorder directly affects us. We do have certain preferential attachment or intimate closeness to certain body parts because of its value to us. There were people who get certain body parts insured. Say, for example, celebrities like Mariah Carey, who was reported to have placed a huge amount for the insurance of her vocal cords and legs. Next to our body are the clothes we use. Influenced by the philosophy of dress by Hermann Lutze, James believed that clothing is an essential part of the material self. Lotze, in his book Microcosmos, stipulates that anytime we bring an object into the surface of our body, we invest that object into the consciousness of our personal existence, taking in its contours to be our own and making it part of the self. So the fabric and style of the clothes we wear bring sensations to the body, to which directly affect our attitudes and behavior. Thus, clothes are placed in the second hierarchy of material self, and clothing is a form of self-expression. We choose and wear clothes that, of course, reflect our self. Third in the hierarchy is our immediate family. Our parents and siblings hold another important part of ourself. What they do or become affects us. Say for example, when an immediate family member dies, of course a part of ourself dies too. When their lives are in success, we feel their victories as if we are the one holding the trophy. In their failures, we are put to shame or guilt. Um, when they are in disadvantaged situation, there is an urgent urge to help, like a voluntary instinct of saving one's self from danger. And we place huge investment in our immediate family when we see them as the nearest replica of ourself. The fourth component of material self is our home. Home is where our heart is. It is the earliest nest of our selfhood. Our experiences inside the home were recorded and marked on particular parts and the things in our home. There was an old cliche about rooms: if only walls can speak. The home, thus, is an extension of self because in it we can directly connect our self. Having investment of self to things made us attached to those things. The more investment of self given to the particular thing, the more we identify ourselves to it. We also tend to collect and possess properties. The collections in different degree of investment of self becomes part of the self. As James describes self, a man's self is the total sum of, or the sum total of all what he can call his. Possessions then become a part or an extension of the self. As part of ourselves. We are what we have and what we possess. The identification of the self to things started in our infancy stage when we make a distinction among self and environment and others who may desire our possessions. These possessions that we dearly have tell something about who we are, our self-concept, our past, and even our future. As we grow older, putting importance to material possession decreases. However, material possession gains higher value in our lifetime if we use material possession to find happiness, associate these things with significant events, accomplishments, and people in our lives. There are even times when material possession of a person that is closely identified to the person gains acknowledgement with high regard even if the person already passed away. Example of this are the chair in the dining room on which the person is always seated. The chair will be the constant reminder of the person seated there, a well-loved and kept vehicle of the person, which some of the bereaved family members have a difficulty to sell or let go of, because that vehicle is very much identified with the owner who passed away, or a favorite pet or book among others that the owner placed a high value. These favorite things are symbols of the owner. For the summary again, William James described self as having three components: its constituents, the feelings and emotions they arouse, and the actions to which they prompt. The constituents of self are composed of the material self, the social self, the spiritual self, and the pure ego. The material self, according to James, primarily is about our bodies, clothes, immediate family, and home. Body is the innermost part of our material self. We are directly attached to this commodity that we cannot live without. Clothes are placed in the second hierarchy of material self. It is a form of self-expression. Family is the third hierarchy of material self. What they do or become affects us. And home is the fourth and last component of material self. It is the earliest nest of our selfhood. And the possessions that we dearly have tell something about who we are, our self-concept, our past, and even our future. After viewing this discussion or this presentation, kindly check your Google Classroom. I have posted in there an assignment called the Debit Card Challenge. I want you to answer that and submit it on or before Friday. So thank you everyone for listening. I hope you have a productive week ahead and stay safe always.